is not the bruises on the body that hurts, it is the wounds of the heart and the scars on the mind. Good morning, everyone present here. Myself, Ahad Samar Sayed, speaking for the motion, and I definitely claim that rape is a shameful sin. Today, I'm going to speak about a very taboo and a very uncomfortable topic, which is rape. Rape is one of the most heinous crimes to the social environment. With the passage of time, the issue has created a lot of distorted effects and seems that law have provided unclear picture to the society. India is a country where women hold high status in the society, but we don't have strict measures to protect them. We have various laws strictly framed to protect their life, but seem to have many loopholes. India is the epicenter of most versatile culture and spirituality. Here, women holds high status in the society and it is considered to be Lakshmi. Rape is the most heinous offense committed on a woman. It is worse than a murder. The legal definition of rape has changed subsequently since the late 20th century. The traditional definition was narrow with respect to both genders and age. Rape was an act of sexual intercourse by a man with a woman against her will. As rape is now understood, a rapist or a victim may be an adult or of either genders or a child. Rape is often explained or excused as a manifestation of racial, ethnic, and class hatred or stemming from a patriarchal system in which women are considered as a men's property. What is rape? A man is said to commit rape who accepts in the case hereinafter accepted has a sexual intercourse with a woman under circumstances falling under any of the six following description. Firstly, against her will. Secondly, without her consent. Thirdly, with her consent when her consent has been obtained by putting her or any person in whom she is interested in fear of death or of hurt. Fourthly, with her consent when the man knows that he is not her husband and that her consent is given because she believes that he is another man to whom she is or believes herself to be lawfully married. Fifthly, with her consent when at the time of given such consent by reason of unsoundness of mind or intoxication or the administration by him personally or through another of any stupefying or wholesome substance, she is unable to understand the nature and consequence of that to which she gives consent. Sixthly, with or without her consent when she is under the age of 16. There are actually two exceptions in this provision. The first exception is the medical procedure, and the second exception, sexual intercourse by a man with his own wife not being under 15 years of age is not a rape. Types of rape. Date rape, a non-domestic rape committed by someone who knows the victim, such as a co-worker, schoolmate, family, friends, teachers, etc. Gang rape, it occurs when a group of people participate in a rape of a single victim. You all know the case of 2012 case of Nirbhaya. Spousal rape or marital rape, it is a rape between a married couple without one spouse consent. Rape of a children, rape of a children is a form of sexual abuse done to the age below of 16 or 12 years. Prison rapes, these are commonly same-sex crimes that attackers usually don't identify as homosexual. This is common in Western countries like US. Serial rape is committed by a person over a relatively long period of time and committed on number of victims. Section 376, punishment for rape. Whoever accepts in the case provided for in subsection of either description for a term shall be not less than 10 years, but which may extend to the imprisonment for life and shall also be liable to fine. Rape by a police officer or a public servant or a member of armed forces or a person being on the
management. Sorry for intervention. When will you explain that 375?
Sir, I explained it before, no, sir.
No, sir, I'll explain definition of that.
I'll explain it more. Sorry,
okay,
sir.
Okay. That is not complete definition of that rape. Whatever.
No, sir.
Without
no,
respect to... Okay.
I still have consent.
Subsequent part you will be explaining, it seems. Okay, go on.
Yeah, sir. Yes, sir. With rape by a police officer or a public servant or a member of armed forces or person being on the management or on the staff of a jail, remand home or other places of custody or women's children's institution or by a person on the management or on the staff of a hospital, and rape committed by a person in a position of trust or authority towards the person raped or by a near relative of person raped shall be punished with a rigorous imprisonment for 10 years or imprisonment for natural life. Silent survivors of rape. Why do we ignore the very real experiences of others just because we don't feel the same way? Rape is talked about in whispers, almost as if it was an embarrassment and not a tragedy. Rape victims resist reporting their crimes in fear of stigmatizing rapists remain unconverted. Hina, at the age of 16, she lost her arm fleeing a home of sexual abuse in her community. The birth of a daughter is celebrated because they perceive her life as an addition to their income. Starting each 10, every daughter born in that household and in that community is forced into the prostitution, seen as an addition to very lucrative sex trade. Her life is diminished merely to sex and, and to the cash that she brings back to her parents. Her entire life, Hina dreamed of being a pilot, but today she fears returning to the community where she is defined by her gender and her fertility. Her worth is stripped to sex, family, and friends. Dismiss her trauma as an everyday occurrence. A girl named Alia, aged 11, was rescued under POSCO and put into this home after repeatedly raped by her own members of her family. Her entire life, she wanted to be a doctor. She wanted to be an educated person. Now she has turned her life into a self-harm at every reminder of the experience she had to go. She did not even know she was a victim. She was unaware of the laws that were in place for girls and minors. She believes that her experiences and her were a result of the family she was born in and the gender. Jokai was a 26-year-old graduate student and the daughter of many immigrants living in the US. She had faced the rape culture at multiple ends, but she struggled with the idea that assumptions that rape culture begins with women. A lot of times we focus on preventing rapes rather than eliminating the factors which contribute to it and cause it. The fact that girls are not allowed to step out of the home without a jacket, and the fact that girls are trained not to step into an elevator with an unknown person. Coercion, consent, and rape. Consent is an agreement between all participants to engage into a sexual activity, should be continuous, and can be decided at any time. The legal age of consent in India is 18. In order to charge of the rape against a man, it is necessary to establish that the sexual intercourse complained of was either against the will or without her consent. Against her will and without her consent may overlap sometimes, but surely the two different expressions in clause firstly and clause secondly have different connotations and dimensions. The expression against her will would ordinarily mean that intercourse was done by a man without her consent and despite resistance and opposition. On the other hand, the expression without her consent would comprehend an act of reason accompanied by the deliberation. Coercion. Coercion is compiling by force, intimidation, authority, or dominating by exploiting fear, anxiety, or desires. Young people should be taught that sexual acts should never be a manner in which for anyone to prove their love or their dedication to another person. That is coercion and it is wrong. And we have to talk to young people and make it clear. Rape occurs when consent is not obtained or freely given. The difference between sexual consent and coercion comes after some sort of dating and pursuing, spoken and unspoken. Consent, on the other hand, is voluntarily and freely given with the understanding that it can be revoked at any given point. Since consent under coercion isn't freely given, it doesn't count as consent. If the consent is given by a person under the fear of injury or under fear of misconception of fact, unsoundness of mind, or intoxication, is unable to understand the nature and consequence, the consent of a child under the age of 12 is void. Psychology of rapist. What are the circumstances in which rape occurs? As with the most of crimes, is concerned to the nature of the relationship between the rapist and the victim. Surveys conducted in India have found that in larger cities, the victim's home is most likely a location for rape. In cities like Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, reported that more than half of the rapes took place in the victim's home. It is because rapes are committed by the victim's partner or ex-partner who has access to victim's home. When the rape is committed by a stranger, the location was most often a public place such as pub, club, park, street, or car parking area, etc. Motive behind the rapes are different to quantify. The studies show that rapists have some common characteristics, which are lack of empathy, narcissism, feeling of hostility towards women. Social pressure and cultures tend to have greater influence over people's behavior than genetics or biology. For instance, a rapist can believe that if a woman says no, she really means yes and that she's just playing around and challenging him. Sex education. Unless Indians have conversations about sexuality, the issue of sexual abuse or rape will never be addressed. I myself had never received any form of sexual education at home or at school while growing up in India. The research highlights that the role of education as a medium for change. Sex education is more than just talking about sexual intimacy. It includes reproductive health, STDs, contraceptives, consent, gender equality, and self-worth, all of which are important themes when addressing sexual violence. An international example of a circular document that explicitly values diversities and promotes inclusive schools environments, and its importance to encourage schools to view sexuality as motivated by social and political factors. Students also need to critically think and learn about sexuality and all that it encompasses. In its historical ruling in 2018, the Supreme Court of India decriminalized homosexuality. The judgment reflects the rapid social changes in the country. Building on this momentum, sexuality must now positioned as an area of learning, not an area of intervention. Is marital rape an offense? India is one of those 36 countries that still have not criminalized marital rape. One of the primary issues being considered is whether marriage gives the husband an expectation of sexual relations and if there is an implied consent for sex by the wife. The second exception, sexual intercourse or sexual acts by a man with his own wife when wife is above 18 years of age, would not be constituted as a rape. At the time of IPC was drafted in 1860s, the colonial period, a married woman was not considered as an independent legal entity. Rather, she was considered to be the chattel of her husband. The marital exception to the IPC's definition of rape was drafted on the basis of Victorian patriarchal norms that did not recognize men and women as equal, did not allow the married woman to own property, etc., etc. The argument is that exception to the marital rape should be struck down because it is unconstitutional. It violates a married woman's right to equality, right to life with dignity, and right to self-expression. The violation of Article 14 and Article 21 in marital rape. Violation of Article 14 states that he shall not deny to any person's equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. Indian laws now affords husbands and wives separate and independent legal entities, and much jurisprudence in the modern era concerned with the protection of women, such as the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act and the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act. Violation of Article 21. Exception 2 is also violation of Article 21 of Indian Constitution. It states that no person shall be denied of his life and personal liberty except according to the procedure established by the law. It violates Article 21, right to life, right to live with a healthy and dignified life. It is well settled that right to life in Article 21 is not merely a right to exist. It is a time that Indian jurisprudence understands the inhuman nature of this provision of law and strikes it down. False accusation under Section 375. A man is guilty until proven innocent, and a woman is innocent until proven guilty. If a woman accuses a man for sexual harassment or rape, the burden of proof lies on the man who is accused to prove the allegation made against him are malicious and he is innocent and being accused for a false accusation. The laws that were made to empower women and make them feel secure in this patriarchal society soon transferred into a sword that slaughters men's dignity in the society by the false accusation. Or it can be said that women started using the very law that was made to protect her as a weapon and that posed a threat to menfolk. The problem that arose in our contemporary world is that women either have sexual intercourse by giving verbal consent and later denying it, or they don't have any sexual sexual intercourse and falsely accuse men that they have without her consent. In both the cases, man has the burden of proof on him and has to prove his innocence in every four cases of rape, only one is convicted. That produces a very high belief that there is a high probability of those not proven guilty after a complete judicial process are accused of rape and innocent and were falsely accused. The case of Shaini Suraj Ahuja versus the state of Maharashtra is a classic example of false accusation. The girl has lodged a police complaint against that she was raped by the actor at his residence. Shaini was subsequently arrested on June 14th. The 20-year-old girl appeared before a court on September 3rd and said that she was never raped by Shaini, and she just filed the complaint against the actor on the behest of the woman who had secured her job as a maid in Ahuja's residence. The victim of false rape accusation is worse than a victim of rape. No one can imagine the shock, trauma, ridicule, humiliation one can suffer after he is falsely accused of rape. Not only the man, but his family or his close ones also suffer various consequences, isolation, etc. His future gets shattered, and the humiliation and the disgrace faced by the society is enough to break anyone. The makers of Section 375 and the Criminal Amendment Act of 2013 had only one-sided vision in respect to Section 375. They only thought about women's safety, but didn't build any remedy for safeguarding innocent men in the society. However, it may not be acceptable for all, but still the model will serve in the best interest of the justice and will be efficient in the today's society than the model already in use. Critical analysis and statistics. According to the latest available statistics from the National Crime Record Bureau, the country has reported rape rate of 5.2 per 1 lakh people as of 2018. Similarly to the previous year, however, vary widely from rural to urban areas across India's 28 states and 8 union territories. In 2018, official data showed that one rape was reported every 15 minutes in India. Of the 34,000 cases reported, just over 85% led to charges and 27% ultimately led to conviction. Of these, 31,320 were committed by the perpetrators known to the victim. As high as 27.8% of victims were minor or below 18, the legal age of consent. The high percentage of perpetrators being a close family member or acquaintance has remained consistent over the years. Rape is the fourth most common crime against a woman in India. In 2015, the Times of India reported 300 rapes and 500 molestation cases in just 2 months, that is from January to February 2015. As of 2019, Rajasthan has the highest number of raw rape reported among the Indian state. Among the metropolitan cities, the national capital, Delhi, continued to have the highest incidence of rape per capita. One of the most infamous cases was 2012 Delhi gang rape case of Jyoti Singh. She was an intern. On 16 December 2012, while traveling with a friend on her way back to the cinema, she was brutally beaten, tortured, and gang raped by 6 members in a private bus. On 29 December 2012, Jyoti Singh died to internal injuries she sustained during the ordeal. In 2016, Union Minister for Women and Child Development, Maneka Gandhi, reported to the Lok Sabha that 13,766 cases of child rape were reported to the National Crime Record Bureau in 2014. India ranked 94th in the rank of reported cases per 1 lakh population in 2019. Conclusion. An overview of the crime clearly indicates that most of the crimes against women across all barriers of religion, caste, or social status. Education and economic independence rarely increase the moral courage of the victim to fight against the crime, especially those crimes which have social stigma attached to them. The gender bias, the patriarchal society, poor developed shelters, lack of space, lack of awareness, lack of time by the loved ones, defective government policies, capitalist kind of society, etc. are the factors which contribute the crime against women. In this indicative society's weakness to protect those who are various inherent reasons are not able to protect themselves fully, and also the fact that we have males among us who are worse than a beast. The sexual offenses, particularly rape, are standing insult, not only to the sacred institution of marriage, sisterhood, or motherhood, but also to the whole humanity. In the rape, victim is destroyed and left alive to face the consequences of destruction every single day. She has to live her death every single hour, every single minute, every single second of her life. The process of law is lengthy, difficult, and expensive. Delayed trials due to heavy backlog of cases and other delay tactics of the offenders dilute the case, proof disappears, and reduces the chance of victim getting justice. Rape is a very complex phenomenon which itself has multiple factors involved in the justice delivery process. For the prevention and control of this evil act, a combined, coordinated, and concerned efforts are required on the part of police, judiciary, NGOs, and common people at large. At last, a quote said by Martin Luther King, our lives began to end the day we become silent about the things that actually matter. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.